On 20th April 1945, Allied engineers entered the Owl Mountains of Silesia expecting bunkers. Instead, they found tunnels descending beyond lamp range, breathing cold air upward in steady pulses. The maps ended quickly. The mountain did not. Project Riese was officially labeled a Führer headquarters expansion. Yet no command rooms were completed. No communications hub installed. What existed instead was scale. Kilometers of reinforced corridors, poured faster than German logistics should have allowed. Lieutenant Karl Brenner felt pressure in his ears as he stepped inside. The rock absorbed sound. Footsteps returned late, altered. The temperature dropped sharply, then stabilized unnaturally, as if regulated by something buried deeper. SS construction records showed 5 separate excavation zones, each reporting to different offices. No single authority oversaw the whole system. When bombings intensified, coordination collapsed, yet digging continued without pause. Survey teams estimated at least 9 major tunnel complexes. Every attempt to connect them on paper failed. Distances inside did not match surface geography. Corridors bent subtly, displacing orientation without obvious curves. A Polish forced laborer later testified that workers were moved blindfolded between sections. He claimed no one knew where they were digging, only that the mountain decided directions. Power conduits appeared before equipment. Thick cabling ran into sealed rock faces, energizing nothing visible. Engineers noted load readings inconsistent with idle systems, suggesting consumption somewhere unaccounted for. Captured SS memos warned of autonomous sections and prohibited unauthorized entry after February 1945. One line was underlined twice. Mapping increases instability. Brenner's compass spun erratically near a reinforced junction. Chalk marks left minutes earlier, no longer aligned. The tunnel felt longer returning than entering, a discrepancy logged and quietly ignored. By May, Allied command halted full exploration. Officially, the tunnels were incomplete. Unofficially, the report said something else entirely. Project Riese was not unfinished. It was unbounded. As exploration continued, ventilation shafts appeared where no exits should exist. Airflow changed direction without wind. Engineers measured pressure gradients behaving like closed systems, not open mines, as if the tunnels regulated themselves. Geological surveys confirmed the rock should not support such cavities without collapse, yet walls showed no stress fractures. Reinforcement was precise, excessive, and consistent across zones built months apart. Brenner noted machinery mounts bolted into floors with no machines attached. Spacing suggested heavy rotating equipment, but no anchor scars matched generators or turbines known at the time. SS requisition lists referenced installation phase pending synchronization. No explanation followed. The term appeared nowhere else in German. Engineering doctrine. Labor camp records showed sudden worker losses without transfer documentation. Death was assumed, yet no burial sites matched the numbers. Survivors claimed some sections were sealed while still occupied. One tunnel terminated at a steel bulkhead sealed from the inside. Scratch marks clustered around the locking wheel. The metal bowed outward slightly, as if pressure had built behind it. Allied engineers calculated the force required to deform the hatch, exceeded what trapped men could generate. No explosives residue was found. The deformation source was unexplained. Electrical instruments spiked near the bulkhead, peaking around 40 hertz. Men reported headaches, nausea, and a sense of compression behind the eyes within minutes of exposure. Medical officers attributed symptoms to fatigue. Yet recovery was immediate once withdrawn. Brenner wrote, "The tunnel is not dangerous. Proximity is." A British intelligence addendum concluded that Riese's purpose was misidentified. It was not a bunker network. It was infrastructure for something that was never installed, or never removed. As teams pushed deeper, tunnel geometry shifted subtly. Straight corridors produced inconsistent step counts, sometimes shortening by meters. Measuring tape snapped taut, then slackened without movement, as if distance itself flexed under observation. Cartographers abandoned conventional mapping. Sketches contradicted themselves within minutes. One officer wrote that Riese behaved like a structure viewed through moving water, stable only when not examined directly. German engineering notes referenced phase alignment tests conducted underground. The term lacked context. Margins contained warnings about personnel exposure, limits measured in minutes, not hours. Brenner entered a chamber lined with identical alcoves, each empty. Dust patterns suggested long-term occupation, then sudden absence. No exit signs, no evacuation debris, just symmetry and silence. Power panels inside the chamber remained active. Gauges fluctuated despite no load attached. Engineers traced current deeper into sealed rock, beyond any excavated voids. Geophysicists argued the readings were impossible. Rock density could not hide additional space, yet vibration tests returned hollow echoes far beyond known tunnels. A Polish miner described hearing voices behind walls, weeks after sections were sealed. Guards dismissed it as stress. Later, acoustic tests recorded low-frequency oscillations matching speech cadence, without intelligible sound. Allied medical logs noted recurring symptoms near specific nodes: vertigo, time distortion, and delayed reaction. Watches desynchronized by seconds within minutes, then corrected themselves after exit. An SS order dated March 1945 instructed all remaining staff to withdraw, except monitoring cadres. The phrase was undefined. No withdrawal logs exist for those cadres. By late May, Allied command restricted access entirely, officially for safety, unofficially because no one could determine what parts of Project Riese were actually empty. In one lower complex, Allied scouts found rail lines ending abruptly at blank rock. The rails were polished, suggesting heavy traffic. There was no debris, no removal marks, only termination, as if the mountain itself closed the route. Seismic probes detected rhythmic vibrations every 90 seconds, consistent across multiple sites kilometers apart. The timing did not match machinery cycles. Analysts called it systemic, a word rarely used in mine reports. Brenner described a sensation of anticipation while standing still, as though the tunnels reacted to presence. When teams paused, airflow slowed. When they moved, pressure increased ahead of them. A captured SS circular warned that extended observation alters internal conditions. It advised rotating personnel frequently. The circular ended with an instruction: "Do not remain to confirm." One chamber contained concrete plinths arranged in a precise grid. No equipment sat atop them. Anchor bolts were heat-scored, implying removal under load rather than disassembly. British engineers noted the plinth spacing did not match industrial machines. Instead, the layout resembled power distribution arrays, scaled far beyond conventional generators. Labor testimonies described strict silence orders during late construction. Workers were punished for speaking underground. Guards claimed sound interfered with measurements. Medical officers later noted that whispered speech produced stronger symptom spikes than normal conversation near certain nodes, correlating with pressure and electrical fluctuations. By June 1945, internal Allied correspondents admitted the tunnels could not be fully cleared. Some sections were left sealed, not for danger, but because re-entry altered adjacent zones. The final reconnaissance report concluded that Project Riese was not abandoned due to time or defeat. It was abandoned because it reached a state no one understood how to stop. In July 1945, Soviet survey teams entered from the eastern approaches and reported conflicting layouts within hours. Compartments marked cleared by Allied forces appeared untouched. Chalk symbols differed. Both sides accused the other of falsifying maps. Soviet geological logs noted anomalous resonance in reinforced sections, peaking near 3941 Hz. The frequency matched earlier Allied readings. Engineers flagged it as non-industrial and requested specialist review that never arrived. A Red Army officer wrote that corridors remembered traffic. Paths taken repeatedly grew warmer, smoother, easier to traverse. Unused routes cooled and constricted, narrowing by centimeters without visible collapse. Joint Allied-Soviet talks briefly considered demolition. Calculations showed blast waves would propagate unpredictably through the network. One estimate warned of secondary collapses far beyond targeted zones. Antem, American physicist attached to the talks, suggested the tunnels behaved as a coupled system. Disturbance in one section redistributed stress elsewhere. The memo ended with a cautious line: "Isolation may be safer than destruction." Local villagers reported ground warmth weeks after sealing operations. Snow melted in straight lines across slopes above known shafts. Officials attributed it to groundwater, despite contrary thermal readings. A Polish engineer measured delayed echoes from controlled detonations. Some returns arrived early, others late. A few never returned. He concluded the internal volume could not be reconciled with surface dimensions. By August, access points were quietly reduced. Barriers installed. Patrols discouraged curiosity. Official reports declared Project Riese militarily irrelevant and structurally incomplete. Privately, intelligence summaries used different language. One concluded, the system achieved functional continuity without a defined payload. When Allied mapping ceased, the tunnels did not go silent. Instruments left behind recorded steady conditions, unchanged by human absence, as if Riese no longer required observers to persist. Postwar Polish authorities attempted civilian surveys in 1947. Teams reported rapid disorientation and equipment drift. One crew exited after 20 minutes, insisting the tunnels had rearranged behind them during a routine traverse. A ministry memo recommended suspending public access permanently. The justification cited instability, but the annex referenced anomalous measurements continuing after full sealing, with no decay curve observed. In 1952, NATO analysts reviewed Riese alongside other underground sites. The conclusion was blunt. Mapping errors were not random. They clustered around nodes with the highest resonance readings. One analyst proposed Riese functioned as infrastructure awaiting activation. Another rejected the idea, noting no trigger mechanism existed. The debate ended without resolution, the file stamped dormant. Thermal scans in winter showed linear melt patterns above sealed shafts, unchanged year to year. Hydrologists disagreed on cause. No groundwater model fit the persistence or geometry. A declassified SS engineering note surfaced decades later, describing Riese as preparatory space. The phrase appeared without object or explanation. The page ended mid-sentence. Local miners reported faint vibrations during cold inversions, counting them like heartbeats. Instruments confirmed a steady interval, neither increasing nor fading, independent of weather or season. By the 1960s, official maps omitted entire corridors. Trails were rerouted. Warning signs mentioned collapse risk, not history. Curiosity waned as access disappeared. Modern LiDAR reveals voids inconsistent with known excavation. Authorities attribute the data to artifacts. Independent reviewers note repeatability across passes, an inconvenient consistency. Project Riese remains, officially incomplete. Unofficially, it resists final accounting. The Allies could not fully map it because it never settled into one shape long enough to be finished.